Sure. Recording in progress.
All right. So, Duke, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, all that good stuff.
I'm not gonna be able to remember that whole list, homie. uh, I'm Duke Krieger. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I am by full-time vocation a minister, and by part-time vocation a graphic designer and illustrator. Uh, what's the next thing on the list?
That was pretty much it. Um,
Hi. No, I think it was like, how did we connect?
yeah. So the
You and
so
I.
the next
You
one,
go ahead.
yeah. So the next one is how did we start? Why you started training and the problems you were looking to
Oh,
solve,
why?
and what
Um,
you want to accomplish and why.
as I got older, I was kind of, I guess you could say, I was just kind of floundering for what direction fitness to go in. I started following some of the, I'm gonna say trendier, but like kind of punk rock fitness programming.
Mm,
I don't want to name names just because that's kind of, you know what I mean. But
faux pas.
I saw,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, faux pas. I started following a couple guys who I didn't realize at the time were, by physiology, tall, skinny guys with muscle who were trying to get, really big. And so I started, just falling in line and not just training how they trained, but I ate what they ate, and they would eat like 8,000 calories a day. So I'm like, great. If I do this programming, I can eat whatever I want, and I could, but I was like blowing through shirt and coat sizes, right? And so I got swole, but I kept all the body fat that I wanted to get rid of. And that was the real mission, was to get the excess off. Because I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40, and I want that, not just managed, but like thoroughly dealt with before I hit an age where, I don't want to say it gets harder, because I've seen some pictures
Sure.
of guys in their 50s who are like, just, they did body transformations in their 60s, but if I can do it now, why wait? And I did really, and it became really apparent really quick that what I thought I knew was really not enough.
Mm,
I didn't know, was the classic line. I didn't know what I thought I knew. I didn't know what I think I
mm,
knew. And I remember, I've been aware of you since, I mean, the late aughts, when you were on the forum we were on, and you were posting, things about CrossFit and things about, fitness. And, I'd watch you, you'd share a lot on your personal social media outlets, and they were very helpful. And I was like, well, he seems to know what he's doing, and he's got a great middle of the road approach, because you would share things from Precision Nutrition, T Nation. There was a really great, it wasn't just this way is the only way. It was like,
right.
take take the best from everything that you can get your hands on. Like, if it's going to help you, let it help you. Like, you weren't just, like, it wasn't like martial arts, one discipline. You were, you were taken from bodybuilders. So, let's be honest, who've cracked the code
Hmm.
on muscle mass, decades ago. So you're taken from T Nation, Precision Nutrition, for like a really no nonsense approach that isn't going to, like, you're not like having to do calculus in your brain every day when it comes to food. Um, and all of this I could see was really to focus on the training and not get bogged down in the, I don't want to say, let's not put the cart before the horse, but you're losing sight of the trees for the forest,
Sure.
And so I reached out to you, and you began to help me with programming. And you're like, hey, what? And then over time, you were like, hey, what do you think about if I put this in an app? I'm like, is it going to change the price? You're like, no, it's easier to track. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just, if it means I'm going to be suffering as much now as I am then. So anyway, and then it was like, I can't point exactly when, but there came a time, it was like I shifted gears and began to, like, not just see results, but understand more of what I'm doing,
Mm,
and was able to, like, um, progress through mental levels of, input, output, effort, results received. And then but it seemed like diet was like the last frontier. And I know people have said, abs are made in the kitchen and whatever. And I got that, but I was just like, man, there's just got to be something I'm missing. And and then it became like, oh, if I adjust my intake of this particular, um, I don't say food group, but like food substance.
Hmm.
Um, and then as soon as I did that, it was like a gear falling into place. I'm like, oh, well, that was it. And so now with all the body of work behind me, like I can see and know that like once the diet thing is really running downhill, all the work that we've done for, I guess, what now, 3 years.
Couple years, and then I want to say we chatted briefly in what was it,
I don't know if I want
2015,
to say this
2016?
out loud. Yeah, you were like, "Hey, run through this," and I'm like, "Bro, that first part wiped me out. I had to go outside and dry heave." You're like, "That first part was the warm up," and I was like, "Oh," you're like, "Yeah, we may have to like go to level zero if the first part." Like that wasn't like no, that wasn't the first part. That was the warm up. I was like, like that was the warm up. I was just glad to survive that. You're like, no, that was the warm up, buddy. Um, hey, little trooper. Um, so I kind of like just enjoyed being fat and blissfully unaware for about 2 years after that, and then I was like, you know what? No, this has got to. Um, my body doesn't need to be in charge of anything, let alone fitness and longevity. I need to take a very on purpose approach to this. And so we began. You started me small and um, started working. A week at a time. Then it was a month at a time, and then it was like and now you're dropping 40 sessions at a time into the app, and I can track forward and see what we're going to do, and that
Sure.
really helps to get your mind right, to look a day or two ahead. I try not to do too many ahead because I don't want to
Sure.
like I don't want it to be Tuesday and I'm fearing Friday. You know what I mean? But like,
Hmm.
going 48 hours ahead, like, okay, cool. Tomorrow's recovery. And then Wednesday we're hitting it, like just to get the brain used. It's kind of like game day, I guess, but like you're getting
Hmm.
yourself used to like, all right, Wednesday is upper body day and we're going to be doing bench and we're going to be hitting it, 92%, 1 rep each, 7 rep, 7 sets. Um, it's like you're building up the momentum to do the work. And anyway, that's kind of getting off in the weeds, but
Yeah.
that's been the benefit of um, the direct contact and coaching. Um, and I don't really think that I've ever needed like I've had questions like, "Hey, we chat about this?" And you've made the time to talk, but really it was just like I need to know what to do.
Yep.
I need to know, and the great thing about that app is like, oh, it's so useful. How many times have you read someone's programming from like a site, or I'm thinking of that one group that you and I know, which will just have to
Hmm.
remain nameless, where they tell you the exercise, but give you no standard of how to do it, no proper movement, no proper form. They just kind of expect you, or they want you to come take the seminar. It's just like, man,
Right.
come on. And so with this and with the internet, you drop those videos of the exercise being done right into the app, and I can watch it and then go do it, and then I know why we're doing it, and then you have notes in there, and most of my feedback every day is this emoji. uh, with the bead of sweat and the red face.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's I couldn't ask for that's exactly what I needed. So I've never needed you, physically here, but being able just to go do the work and be left alone and just do it, um, it's invaluable.
Awesome. What would you say have been some of your biggest accomplishments, or changes?
I would say some of the biggest accomplishments are doing things I didn't think I could do, doing things I didn't think I wanted to do. I never thought I'd be back on a bench press machine, to be honest with you. A bench press machine, a bench rack.
Hmm.
And um, I, I heard a story about a famous comedian Jerry Seinfeld, and he was having coffee. It's from that show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Don't know if you've seen it or heard it. It's on
I
Netflix. It's
haven't.
hilarious. But he's sitting with Alec Baldwin, and Alec Baldwin's like, if I had your money, I would sit on my porch and I'd have a phone. And when people would call, I would just be, no. And I just hang up. And so I would read, especially in the beginning, I would read some of the programming and just be like, no, I'm not doing this. And so I, do something similar, go, lighter weight. I'm like, no, absolutely. No, absolutely not. And so to progress when you're like, and I've mentioned it a couple times now because it would just happen, yesterday or the day before. Anyway, it was 7 sets. This is like first set, and you're doing it bodybuilding style where you're hitting the big one first thing, and then you do a couple small things, and
Yep.
that's because that's what the phase of the programming that we're in. But you're like, bam, 7 sets, 92% 1 rep with 45 seconds rest in between. And man, I'm doing it with 255.
Yeah.
And it's not and I know, and the cool thing is, like, I'm pushing off the rack, down, up, onto the rack, and I'm like, I know I had at least another 20, 25, 30 pounds that could have gone. So that's a great feeling to know, to see I think that was a long explanation to say, to see my capability go up more than what I need,
Yeah.
you could say, getting more in the tank, however you want to say it. That's been a really great feeling. To watch, I know they say that fat loss and body composition works from the outside in. It's like it goes up your arms and from your limbs and down into your body. To watch my shoulders like reshape into traps and upper delt and lower delt and reshape, like, all right, like okay. And then my wife will go, like, give me, I'm like, all right. And then the other day, somehow I did something, like the mirror was behind me and another mirror nearby. And I caught, I looked over my shoulder. I'm like, when did I get back muscles? So that's like, all of a sudden we're like, holy smokes, are those, like, my traps don't look just like traps anymore. They look like gigantic sandworms up there. I'm just like, all right, like, yeah. So the aesthetics has been nice. There's some of the visual results. Not enough that you're like, I can coast now, but like it's enough to go, all right, man, let's keep going. Like, we got
Yeah.
this. So accomplishments. What was the other accomplishment? What else?
Just anything else, like biggest progress or other things you notice.
Being able to pull more than I ever have. I still don't do a lot of deadlifts. I just don't. Well, for one thing, thank God the programming doesn't call for it. But because I think there's just so many other things that are safer that you can do instead. I think you and I have both seen guys who have been competitors, like like strongman stuff. And like, if you don't get paid for it, don't deadlift.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of like I get the guys on the ACFT have to do it, with the trap bar and whatever.
Yeah.
But being able to, we have this one. It's not a machine. It still takes plates, but it's got like pivot handles, so it's very motion of the arm and wrist
Yep. Probably hammer
friendly.
strength.
But you can and you can pull from either side. Like, they both have plates on each side, so they're independent. But to
Yep.
get on that and pull and to really pound, just crush the weight on that, is in like, wow, I'm not saying this like with a big head. I know I already have a big head, so just humor the phrase. But to find out you can do a lot more than what you thought you could, and increase that capability has been really, really enjoyable. When you kind of break through a mental, that's what I wanted to say. The breaking through of mental barriers and physical barriers, and we can just sum it up with that. And I could have saved you 5 more minutes. But
Is
yeah,
there,
having those barriers and limits, kind of like, and you don't really realize that you do it. You're like, did I just do that? Like, and you're driving home and you're looking back like, we just did that. Like, that was pretty cool. Like that, those little ones along the way that are kind of like roadsides, like you like a mile marker on a highway. Like
Hmm.
you're like, all right, let's just keep going. This is cool. Yeah, we can do this. We can do this. So I find myself not as much going, no, when I read the programming, going like, all right, we can do that. Like
Yeah.
we'll go for it. So yeah.
Is there anything else that you would tell somebody else thinking about training?
Is there anything else I would tell them? I would say don't start until you decide that you're all in. Um, and this isn't something I, other people may be different. I wouldn't ever want to do this again where I just tried it out,
Mhm.
because to me, trying it out means that the exit sign is really bright over the door. Like you're giving yourself a huge opportunity to quit. For me personally, I've got a lot of personal conviction about why I have to do this. One of the biggest reasons is longevity. I'd say that's my number two, and it's like an A and B thing. Like they're both equal. The first one's personal, but the second one is longevity. Like I want to be. There's some older guys. There's some old people at my gym who, man, they're struggling, but man, they're still there doing it. Doing what they can. But then
Yeah.
there's some old guys that are like, they are still in top shape. Like they've got body definition. They're walking upright. Their back's in good shape. Their legs are in good shape. There's no shuffle. Like they have full range of motion. Their mobility is good. And I'm like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want to, and not pointing at them, but using that as an example. Like I want to be in my late 80s and 90s and still, you know, maybe weight assisted, but still go do a pull up and still be able to walk, you know, normal range of motion, no shuffle step, no hunch. I want to still have that and have some strength. I don't want to, be frail, and maintain that for um, as long as I possibly can. So again, back to the original question, is there anything that I would tell somebody? I would tell them to like make yourself do like a 4 month programming with you. Like make
Hmm.
yourself, don't do it like I'm gonna try it for a couple of weeks. Like no, do it buy it, do the 4 months, get through it, um, and do it a wholehearted. Like watch the diet, get to the gym, give yourself a short term goal because biting off in smaller pieces, right? Do the mobility, do the knees over toes, do this and do everything. Get the minimum 7 hours sleep. Do the things and just see where you're at. And like it's worth the investment just to give yourself some short-term physical relief. I don't have, other than the breaking out of the habit of scrolling and playing on a mobile device right before bed. I don't have problems sleeping. My body feels good. I'd say that all the recovery and I don't really do a lot of quote unquote recovery work.
Right.
I just do whatever's on the next day, and
Hmm.
and I'll make it, especially after I mean, if you've done several thousand pounds in a session of an upper body session, yeah, you're gonna feel maybe a little bit of tightness, but doing um,
RPR.
the RPR and then doing, you don't even have to do full mobility, just do some mobility. Like
Yep.
it's amazing how much reduced soreness there is, just doing the work the way it's listed out. So anyway, forgive me for taking a short question and making a long answer to it.
It's
I
all
would
good.
just say, you don't have to like become a lifelong cult member, like and saying goodbye to your family members and things like that. But I would just say, do it for a block of time and do it 100% and do all the work and give it a fair shot. Do the mobility, do the knees over toes, and I've lost track of how many times I've texted you, called you, or whatever, and been like, dude, you're like, I know, that's why I have you do it. You're like, I'm doing it too. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people may not realize is that you're doing what you're programming us to do right along with us.
Yep.
And so it's not, so that there's and it's not just like in a, well, coach is doing it too, and he's, setting the standard, but it's more like you're experiencing it right along there with us. And you're like, whew, that was a gasser. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Like I'm not superhuman. When I do, I'll 1 mile kettlebell walk, like it still sucks. Like,
I'm gonna nail the full mile soon. That's my goal. But yeah, like the other day it was 14. I guess as I said before we started recording, it's 17 laps on the inside walking track at my gym
Yeah.
for 1 mile. And I got to like, it was either 12 or 13 laps, and I felt like I felt like my arms were about to literally like pop off my body. I'm like, I'm done. I can't anymore. But today I just did the 30 minutes of cardio. I got on one. The gym has Pelotons, or like
Yep.
knockoff Pelotons, and I got on that, and I watched For All Mankind, the historical drama fiction series, whatever,
Mhm.
and 30 minutes was up, and I did 5.7 miles, and it was like I wasn't. It was recovery day, so there was no instructions otherwise, so I wasn't like trying to break myself off. It was just get on there and get things moving and get the blood going, and it was over and done with. And I was like, I feel good. I feel like really good. I feel like really good. So just do it and follow the instructions and don't have a better idea and just do it the way you said it and ask questions. And if you have any, what do you call it? If you have anything gives you pause, you can write Nathan and ask him, but get into it. And, knowing that there's other dudes, like knowing that I get to troll other guys on the on the app, especially when they lift more than I do.
It's a bonus.
It's a bonus. Yeah, when I can hassle David and Ed, yeah, that's a great feeling. If I'm gonna be miserable, I'm gonna spread it around.
Because they're animals and they like feel nothing. They're just like,
Oh
yeah,
my
I did like
gosh.
30,000 pounds a day, no big deal. You're like, Jesus.
Yeah, I got to go to one of our team members' promotion ceremonies,
Mhm.
and David was there, and it's like this gigantic Asian specimen. I'm like, will you stop? Just stop. Just shrink. Do something. Like just yeah. So there's some absolute specimens who work with us, so that also helps. But who also are like the kindest and nicest. Like, man, it wasn't that much. I still got a lot of work to do. You're like, you're crushing the ACFT. Like you're getting 5 points off of perfect. Like, yeah, it could have been better. You're like, stop. Like
Yep.
these perfectionists, you know what I mean? Like, so this is who we're working with and not want to say keeping up with. And that was actually one thing really early on. Like, I'm not gonna be able to keep up with these guys. I'm just gonna have to do the programming that you've assigned me to do and just give it my all. And if I ever feel too big for my britches, I'll just look at what they did that day. I'm like, whew, yeah, I got a lot of work to do. So yeah, I don't really have anything earth shattering other than if someone was on the fence, I would say, wait till you're not on the fence anymore. Make up your mind. And then if you're not sure about this particular method, like train heroic via, gunfighter performance, I'd say give it at least a solid quarter of a year and go all in, and not like crazy, but like do the work, do the recovery, do the mobility, and make sure your diet is working for you and not against you, and just see where you are in 4 months. And I don't think anybody who gives it an honest, 100% effort will want to stop by them. They'll be like, man, this was the greatest 4 months. Like that first month sucked. The second month sucked less. And by the middle of month 3, I was cruising, and month 4 was amazing. And then by the end of that, they're going to be like, I'm never going back. So that'll be my recommendation.
Awesome, man. Well, I've got to get on another one, but let me just stop. Where do you stop the recording? Up here.